Hello, I'm Megan. I've been learning Spanish. Um, I guess probably coming up 3 years before I left, um, with the goal to be able to communicate on my travels, which I have now done. Um, and it was very helpful.
Yeah, how was that traveling in
Yeah.
South America then? South America, Central
Yeah, it was
America?
amazing. Central, yeah, Central. So we did Mexico down to Panama. And yeah, it was so cool. Very different, but very cool to use my Spanish. Although different with all the accents and the speed that they speak. But I muddled my way through.
Yeah, amazing. Good stuff. And what are your
Yeah.
have you got goals for Spanish now? Like, what would you
I
say going
do. I
forward?
want to start lessons again.
Oh,
Once
really?
once I've got a job again, like regular work, so enough to kind of budget it in. I want to start just because it's cool, and I want to carry on because I want to be fluent. I want to be able to speak fluently, like properly fluently, you know. So yeah,
Okay.
the goal is to start lessons with you again when I can. Just
Um,
yes, definitely, and then getting mixed up between words as well. I definitely uh there was one experience. We were on a tour somewhere and I was trying to say that it was really fun, but I said it was really boring. And I didn't realize for a while. And then I suddenly realized what I'd said. And I was like, oh my God, that's so embarrassing. I didn't mean that. And yeah, I think I managed to correct it. And I think he could tell it wasn't what I meant because I said it with a big grin on my face. But then you get really stressed and it's a lot harder when you're stressed because I was chatting okay with him until that point. And when I realized, I was like, oh, I don't want to say anything now. I was
yeah.
just saying he was just happy. Yeah, that because he couldn't speak any English, and we were literally in the middle of nowhere on horseback. Like it was actually quite a interesting experience. But he couldn't speak any English, but he was the only person that we had there that knew what we were doing. So it was really reassuring to be able to know that I could at least communicate like essential stuff. And yeah, he was really impressed that I could speak any Spanish. He was like, huh? So that was cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I also think when learning it at school, I'm not sure I ever actually had a conversation with anybody in the language. Which what's the point in learning it if you don't speak it? Um, Whereas with you, I've learned purely from speaking with you and communicating what I need and want to communicate. So it's more interesting and it's more useful and it's practical when you actually use it. So yeah. Whereas I don't think I'd really ever spoke French or Spanish when I learnt it at school in a useful conversation. And going back to the oral exams, I feel like you'd write down your little paragraph of what you have to say, but I'd learn it like a script. I wouldn't actually know what I was saying. So I'd just reel it off because I'd learn the words, but I wouldn't have a clue. Whereas now I'd actually know what I was saying. And I wouldn't have to necessarily have a script as if I had like a topic that I could talk about. I feel like I've learned enough to be able to kind of figure that out on the spot.
Yeah, exactly. Gives you the ability to
I found
improvise,
that really
right?
useful as well whilst away. If there was a word that I couldn't think of, but the fact that you've taught us to be able to, yeah, exactly, and it did make such a difference. Actually, putting that into practice, was handy. Yeah. It was cool. I had to get used to the accent because obviously it's all very different over there to this kind of area of the world. Um, and the first place that I got was Mexico. We were there for quite a while, and I quite struggled in Mexico because they speak really fast. They use a lot of like local slang, and every situation that I spoke Spanish was really like loud, and my hearing's not the best, and so that was quite frustrating. So I got to the end of Mexico and was quite like annoyed at myself. I was like, I can't speak Spanish. Like I was really annoyed. And then we got to Guatemala, and it was like complete opposite experience. Like it was again a taxi journey. I didn't get a free taxi unfortunately, but it was a taxi journey. I kind of got in and just was like hola qué tal, like, which I'd just kind of say, and he chatted back to me and I was like, oh okay. And he was like really nice and obviously could tell that we weren't Spanish speaking because I was speaking to Rob in English, kind of going between him and Rob. But he was really patient and like asked, it was like very much had a conversation. It felt quite similar to a lesson with you actually. Like if he asked something and I didn't understand it, he would just say like, "Oh, for example, I'm from here," or like and like help me through. And I had like a full on like the whole conversation and the whole taxi journey was in Spanish, and that was like having gone from Mexico and finding that really hard and stressful and like properly thrown in the deep end, because that's the first time I'd spoken to anyone like Spanish Spanish speaking, then getting to Guatemala and basically the rest of the kind of countries that we went down through. It was really cool. But that taxi journey was like the first time that I was like, no, I can speak Spanish and I can do this. And so then I used it like a lot more, and just I could go and ask anyone basically anything I wanted. Like I very much felt like I could communicate pretty much anything, which with that sounds really like confident, but like I felt like that. I didn't ever feel like I couldn't communicate to someone what I needed to communicate, which was really, really cool. I think it helps with the learning, because often, I mean, I can't think of a specific example, I don't think, but like if you make a mistake, then it can be funny, or it can actually you end up saying something really stupid, as in like not something funny, and then actually that helps you remember the word. So mistakes I don't think are negative at all. And yeah, very much learning with you allowed me to get over that whole self-conscious thing of making mistakes. It comes back every now and then, but generally if you just go for it, then yeah, you can laugh. I can laugh at the mistake now, and often it will then actually get the word in my head better. Yeah, I was going to say, going back to that, the whole como se dice, sometimes like once I've been learning for a while, you'd be like, I'm not going to tell you, like explain it, like what you're trying to say, and which at first would be really annoying, but actually like I would do that, and from explaining it, either you would then obviously tell me what it was, or I would come across the answer myself, like it would jog my memory as well. And so yeah, again, but you're good at knowing when to go, actually I'll just tell you the word, or actually no, you will figure this out. And I found that really helpful, because I would have a tendency to just go, oh, can you just tell me what it is, whereas actually I could figure it out myself. So that was helpful as well. And often I would come to it myself, or if it really wasn't coming, then I would be able to explain it, and you'd be able to then go, oh, you mean this, which obviously is so much better, because if I was speaking to someone that only spoke Spanish and I was like, how do you say, and then English words, they wouldn't be able to tell me, whereas if I could explain it and like point, like then they would be able to tell me. So I found that like helpful in many ways.